One, and we are live. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Ted from Off the Hook, and I have a special guest and a friend of mine, Josh from Whitetail Driven Solutions. How you doing, Josh?
Good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. We got On the Hunt here, 365. He just popped in, so thank you for coming in. We appreciate it, and I'm sure some people will be rolling in here. But what I wanted to do, Josh, how was your hunting season so far?
Good. It's getting to that point where you're starting to get the when you don't have a tag left, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing in a way, but you start getting the fourth quarter. Man, I don't know whether to be upset I don't have a tag left or be mad that I can't start my chainsaw yet. I'm kind of in that. That's where I'm at. If that
you can do some scheduling. You can maybe get a jump start on some scheduling.
No,
that's about it.
That's not a problem this time of the year. The phone rings off the wall. So no, when you called a week ago and said, "Hey, I see if we can do this," it was a blessing. It's good to be able to take a break sometimes, and yeah, it's definitely booking season crazy, but it's a blessing. It's time that we take and be able to touch base with a lot of clients through the season, just like you asked, how's your season going? I have those conversations with my clients and stuff, and then we're able to get everybody on the schedule for the upcoming year, which we've got haven't even wrapped my head around all of it yet this year, but we've got a whole bunch of new stuff coming and going to be in some new areas, and going to be looks to be another great season.
Yeah, for sure. And then that'll lead us, because I do have some questions for you, but that's going to lead us right into, you have an announcement to make that's something new on your channel and your business, really, that you're going to be starting something new this year, which I'm very excited for, because I'm going to be using it probably this year with the club. So why don't you explain to everybody here? We got my my dad's in here, Ted.
Oh, good.
And we got my mom in here, Bernie. She's in here as well, watching.
Oh, nice.
Watching her son make a fool of himself. You know what I mean? So
hey, it takes a village, they say, right?
For sure.
Takes a team. I appreciate that, Ted. So just a quick, we've talked before, and probably a lot of the folks that are on tonight, have listened to me ramble before, so I'll keep it short. But our business, my business is I travel around the country. I'm a whitetail consultant, obviously, and schedule's open for 80 clients a year, do about 60 designs, and then I am involved in about a dozen builds, whether them are my turnkey builds or and we're buildings selling properties, or if it's for my clients. Some clients, a lot of clients do that all the stuff on their own. Other part of the business is they hire me to do that, right? So so we're doing that, and then that starts that topic, right? I think it's important to touch on this. Is for years, right? It's, to me, it's very important. One of the steps of hiring a whitetail consultant is there's just so much that you can do boots on the ground that you just can't do if you don't see it, right? In my shoes, trying to help somebody. So for years, I tried to help when I couldn't get there, and if it just didn't work, or folks I couldn't get there till the following year, and I had to give some pointers, right? You can give some ideas, but
you've helped me out just that same way. You've helped me out on the phone and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's so we have always tried to help as much as we could, but obviously, the folks that are paying, it's not cheap to have us there, right, or me there, and so had to get that on the books and then kind of fit things in, and around how I could. Make a long story short, it wasn't that I was against it. I just never felt I've seen it go south. Let's just say this, right? I've seen it go south with folks that have hired someone to design something from afar. And I mean, it's good for business, but bad for people, because what happens is about 20 of my clients a year have worked with somebody before. That's not a boasting point. That's just honest. And then what happens is probably 10 of those were designed from afar. So it's always been something in the back of my mind, because I'm very, how do I want to say this? I'm very adamant about taking all of the hints, right? Or the constructive criticism, or constructive, this is what you should do, there's a need for this, and trying to help, right?
Yep.
So, and I'm not exaggerating when I say about 30 people a year have called year after year after year saying, hey, we want to have something that we can have you help from afar. So that's what started it, right? So what I did is I sat down, really tied it together this year. And what we're offering is we named it the DIY Pro. So it's based on, which a lot of folks are in these shoes, that and it is. It's very special. It's a connection that you have with that property
Mm-hmm.
that I feel strongly about. That so the more you can get your fingers dirty, let's say your finger dirt under them fingernails, the better. So I'm all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we are offering a DIY Pro is what it's called, right? So what it is, instead of me being there with you, boots on the ground for the day, giving you a full design, giving you the habitat book, the habitat plan, all that comes with that, you're still going to get the habitat book. You're still going to get I'm going to try to help you with a plan as much as I can, but the design part of it, what I did was I found a way that I want to be able to have a phone call with, just like we're doing now, right? Or
Yep.
a meeting with
Yep.
the folks that are involved, one or multiple, and go over the ins and outs of that property, top to bottom, give me anything that I need to know, try to really see it.
Mm-hmm.
Aerials, topographical maps, everything. But instead of me designing it, at the end of that first conversation, which involves 2 or 3 calls total,
Mm-hmm.
after that first one or second one, when you're ready, we're going to do this on Hunt Stand and we're going to do this together. We're going to talk
That's
about it.
awesome.
You're going to put some stuff on there. I'm going to tell you good, yay, nay, bad, ugly. And then you're going to take it back like I would take it and design it.
Yep.
And then
That's awesome.
we're going to bring it back to me, and then I'm going to critique it.
Oh
And
yeah.
as soon as it was just like a big relief for me. Once I thought about that, it was like, and people have loved it. We've got many
Yeah.
already to do. So,
I'm already excited about it, to tell you the truth, because it's like a class thing. Like we're gonna do it up and then give it to you, and you're gonna like sort of like you said, critique it, go
yeah,
through it. And I do want to mention real quick while we're on this subject that guys, if you guys are in here, Josh really cares about your land. It isn't like he's just trying to put something together for you and forget about it. And that's how we met, Josh. Like I met you on YouTube. I started getting a hold of you. You were calling me back. You do get a hold of people. And he really cares about what you care about. And that's something that isn't out there much. You know, like a lot of people out there just want to make a dollar on setting something up, throw some rye in the field and you're good. And it's your food plot. But Josh really is thorough with your land, and I'm just looking forward to this program so much that I think it's going to help our club, and I am going to get that mentioned to our club about getting on that program with you guys. And because you even stopped at our place while you were driving through to go to Kentucky one time. You just stopped and helped. And that's the kind of person Josh is, guys. So if anybody's interested, or anybody that knows anybody that's interested in doing some land management or some deer management, please, I'm going to have Josh's all his information in this live and in the description of this video. I'll have his website up, I'll have his YouTube channel up, so you guys can connect with Josh at any time. And believe me, it's worth every minute you spend with him. He has a book of knowledge and he cares about your land. So I just wanted to mention that. Sorry for rambling.
No. I appreciate that, Ted. I try to, go. That's what took so long to get that available, right? It's just because I just couldn't wrap my head around how I wanted to be able to sleep at night, let's say, knowing I'm giving my clients that wanted that everything that I could give them, So, yeah, it's that, like you touched on, and we won't spend a lot of time on it, but I mean, that's the sad part of the business, and I'm not naming any names or anything. It's just, um, it's kind of the habitat season. Maybe sometimes is a short window, and it's a race to the finish. And what happens is folks are doing these and kind of leaving folks stranded, if you will. And then when they have a question, because let's face it, even if you have a design in your hand and you have a chainsaw, that tree doesn't grow back overnight. It took 30 years to grow it, right? So you really need to make sure, and the safety side of it, but you really got to make sure what you're doing, where you're putting it, why you're putting it there. And when they go to call to ask a question, nobody's there. So that was part of my business model when I structured this business years ago, right? To make sure that was the deal. So, if you do have us design or have me design a property that there's a whole deal that we go down about how you get a hold of me and you video something and send it to me, do some work. If I'm not doing the work or all of it, you're doing it, take the design, do some work, and then video it, show me, and then I help you like, yep, that's perfect, or you're a little overboard, or you need a little more, or you forgot to take the canopy away before you did your hinge cutting, stuff like that to walk you through. And there's the only extra charge I ever get is when it's a revisit, right? Like if I'm coming through the area and I have a day to stop and you are X amount of way through something and you need me to look at it or tweak it for you. Um, excuse me. Then what I do, is there's a $750 charge or whatever to stop in for the day and really go over that with you. But there's no, hey, I can't talk to you this week and, pay at this window. It's just not me. And I don't know, probably, I don't know, maybe not a great dollar business thing, but it comes back full circle at the end. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about that. I'm just, because I've been on the building side of it so much, and I know there's no worse feeling in the world to just have something. And to be honest with you, I'll touch on this real quick, Ted. To be honest with you, a lot of the folks that have had somebody else work on their property, sometimes I get there and folks want to show me, what they had done design wise. And it's not that the design's bad a lot of times, right? It's just nothing's done because they didn't have anybody in their corner to help them get it accomplished.
Yep.
Right. So so we're looking forward to it. And then the second part of that whole announcement, or that second part of this whole deal, this is something I've been working on for a couple of years. We had a platform we were working on, the Patreon app, and it's becoming pretty popular. But so I wanted a area to make a community, a private learning community is what I call it, right? For folks that I put as much as I can, and I give as much information on the YouTube channel as I possibly can. And it's free, obviously, right? And really, people take that and kind of fit it to their deal, but there's a need for people wanting the next step, like,
the
not
hands-on, you being involved a little bit, hands-on,
Yeah.
like you being involved.
Yeah, so we'd started that Patreon thing, and it had some traction, and then it's real hard to in my opinion, it was hard to navigate. And a lot of us aren't the techiest people in the world, right? So it was hard to navigate. People didn't feel comfortable putting their card out there and paying something. So anyway, we kind of let that. I was looking, and we found one. It's called School. It's a SKOOL, School.
Yep.
And it's that app, and it's so easy. I mean, it's a subscription, $10 a year, or $100, or $10 a month, $100 a year, whatever it is on there. They help me set it all up, and then you pay that. But I'm putting stuff on there that's not going to be seen on the YouTube channel. That's more in depth. That people, it's real specific. And then we've got a logging for whitetails video in there right now. That's like an hour long, and nobody wants to watch an hour long YouTube video, so it's in there. And that's purchasable because not everybody's needs logging. But it's once you pay that $10 a month and you're part of the community, what it is you can ask a question and I'm able to answer it, but everybody else is be able to see it, and
it's
then
like
they
a
have
chat,
questions.
like a chat room type deal.
Yeah, and it's
awesome.
It's working great this week. I don't even know how many people are in it now. It's been a lot. So
I'm gonna have to get on that with you guys. I'm gonna have to
I'll send you a link to it. Right now it's an
Yeah.
invite thing, and then once you hit so many members or whatever, then they kind of put you on their social board. But right now you have to follow the link that's on some of our platforms that I've posted, and you follow that link or one I send to people. So those two together, Ted, are really going to change some stuff, and I'm looking forward to it because it puts me in contact with folks directly, and it's been so far, knock on wood, good Lord willing, it continues. It's been a pretty smooth transition into it.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited. I can't wait for it. It's like it's the next best thing for you being there. It's the hands-on. It's about as hands-on as you can get without physically being there. In today's world, it's hard to reach everybody. You know what I mean? And you could reach probably a little bit more people than you are too. You know what I mean? And you could help people. So I just think in our situation, of course, I'd love to have you down there and doing all that. But sometimes in price, it's going to be a little bit differently priced as you being there. It's going to be a little cheaper than you not being there. So that helps that helps my club who's on a budget. So anybody that's on a budget could afford it now. And I'm not saying you're overpriced or not. I'm just saying is people that don't have the money to get you out there can benefit greatly by doing this. And some people might not want you there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they want to do it themselves and they want you to point them in the right direction. And they are that kind of hands-on and they want to do the work. Like I think our group will like to do that. And I think it's just going to be an awesome, I'm excited for it. I really am.
Yeah. It's you hit it perfect. There's just so many variables why people, it's the budget thing. Some people, like you said, there's 4 people involved and not 3 of them don't want to have anything to do with it. One wants to, so it's they do it all themselves, or they don't want you there because they don't want me working with a neighbor, or I mean, I've heard it all, right? So it really, it's my goal is to have a kind of a platform for everyone, if that, and then that way. And what I like about that school app, right, is if one person, I tell everybody this at the end of the year, I update and add to my habitat book that I give everybody, right, that that works with us. I update that every year, and the reason is this: if one person is asking it, probably 20 are thinking it. You know what I mean? So if you ask something on that, today I answered 3 or 4 questions, and I'm sure other people were like, "Hey, that makes sense. I can use that."
You got to 20 people with one question, you know what I mean? So that covers that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be I'm happy. I'm excited for you, man. I hope it just blossoms for you. And I'm going to be excited to be a part of it because I'm definitely going to be a part of it. Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that. So I know we're looking forward to it too. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right. Anything else you have to add to that, Josh? You good?
No. Hope everybody's having a good season. It's like you said, our season here, our muzzleloader hunt comes in, our late muzzleloader hunt comes in here, Central Kentucky this weekend. My boy he's flying down Sunday, and he's going to hunt if we need to. I think it's a week long, and so we're hopefully going to put him on one of the remaining bucks that are still on the hit list, and get that job done, and then into the holidays. So happy holidays to everyone watching. So
and then you can save a buck for me in the next couple of years. Maybe I'll get on there. Maybe I'll come down. We do have a question here real quick, Josh, and I wanted to see if you, I don't know, can you see that on the screen? It says, unfortunately, I don't have any private land to manage, but still would be cool to send public land maps to pinpoint locations. Is that something that you're going to be getting into with public land or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have a lot of folks that will give me public land is tricky. I'm not going to share it for it. And the reason for that is, I obviously would never share anybody's waypoints or anything. But some folks just want to give me like a reference or an idea. This is what it looks like. So whether you want to share the pins or not, we can help. That DIY package has a lot of, let's call it structure or bones to it, right? That are going to be about the habitat building side of it. But we can go further into what you search for if you're not the one building it. And why I say that is I feel I'm originally from Central Michigan, right? So, there's a lot of things on public ground up there that I think folks really overlook. One is one of the pieces we're going to talk about tonight. But I mean, I think it's something that folks overlook because of the way that and they don't intentionally make deer habitat right on public ground, state and federal ground, especially Michigan. They'd spend a fortune on a butterfly or a bird, but heaven forbid do anything for the deer, right? But anyway,
I know.
I won't get on that rant. I'll get off my soapbox.
Go down that rabbit hole.
But anyway, it's there's a lot of stuff on public ground that we can relate. Like, this is what we would build. This is what you need to look for. And they built bird habitat, quail habitat, whatever that case is, right? And it's all about daylight and structure and access. And so, yes, I have done it in the past. And if someone is interested in doing that, yes, you can do that.
Awesome. Great. And right before we even got on the live, we talked about a little bit about my areas. Like, you can look for that kind of thing when you're out there on public land. Like if you're looking at food and you're looking at a bedding area and you get in between those or whatever, like there's a lot of stuff that you can relate, like what you would build. And then people say, okay, that area sounds like what Josh was talking about. So I'm going to go in there, and then it's like scouting it, you're scouting it and you're asking what to scout basically and what to look for while you're scouting basically. And then,
well, I
remember Josh saying that.
I've told everybody this for years, Ted, and maybe it's something I need to do more of a video on or something, but I've talked about this to folks a lot. I've always encouraged folks is public ground, whether it's state or federal, right? Public ground can be and should be a teacher, whether you're hunting it or whether you're scouting it. And the reason I say that is if you want raw truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Raw, unmanipulated movement of deer. We're blessed as private landowners to be able to do that on public ground. You can't, right? So if you want to see how a deer navigates a funnel or a saddle or thermals or contour or downwind side of correct habitat, whether that's bedding like we deem it, but I mean, habitat, go out on public ground. And I'm not saying tromp all over there when there's, be respectful if it's hunting season, but I'm saying like postseason scouting and stuff. I can't even tell you how much I've learned by walking out there and saying, wait a minute, this makes sense. This makes sense why that deer's doing that. And next thing you know, you return home. It's like, so it's a classroom, right?
Yeah, I get it. I never thought of it that way, but you hit the nail on the head right there for sure.
It's something that so many people look at, and that's just the world we live in. Well, we're public hunters, public ground hunters, and you're private ground hunters, and we're all, we can go down that road. We're all against each other, but there's whether you're in the South and the North or the Midwest or whatever, but there's so many things that you can learn. You're doing exactly what I do and get paid to do. I mean, you're going out there and you're putting boots on the ground on acres and acres and acres and acres and learning. And I've always told everybody this is I don't know anything, it's a profession of mine. I try to do the best I can and I try to be a sponge and I'm learning all the time, but I don't know anything more than anybody else does that has the same amount of years in the woods as me. But what I am able to do, right, is I'm able to see more ground in a year than most people get to see in a lifetime. Different ground, so it's a blessing to be able to say, hey, this worked on, this Joe's property in West Virginia and you're in Illinois and hey, this could work. So I would highly encourage everybody to do that. Use the public grounds, just be respectful during the hunting season and stuff, but it's just a blank canvas learning classroom, I guess you could call it, right?
Yep. Deer hunting, hard knocks. Hunting.
Oh yeah. You think you're a deer hunter? Go tackle public ground, and if you come out smelling like a rose on the other side of it,
you did something, huh?
Oh baby, yeah.
All right. So my dad has a question, real quick, and then we'll get into our main topic for the night. He said, "What trees can you hinge cut in the winter?"
Well, it's you can do a lot of them. Your maple, anything that's got a more of a sap content, if you will, that transfers through that xylem and phloem, that feed and push. You got to time it with weather conditions as far as like how cold it is.
Freezing weather as opposed to warmer weather.
Yeah, like a red oak versus a white oak, right? A white oak you can pretty much hinge cut. If you're needing to hinge cut, you can hinge cut at any time because it's real stringy. It's, when you want to split a log, this is what I always try to tell everybody is if it's a log that when you're cutting firewood and you're splitting firewood, if it's one you hit one with an axe and it pops apart, that's the one you have to be careful with when you hinge. If it's colder or if it's in that time period, red oak, you really got to watch because they barber chair like crazy, but they're brittle. A white oak, as opposite, it's very stringy. It's not one you want to, you ever split white oak with an axe or a maul, you're going to hit it and tear it apart. It's just stringy. So you can do that more. Maple is another one, hard maple. Soft maple is probably one of my favorites. Soft maple makes excellent habitat. It's a softer wood, but it's very hardy, right? And a lot of the times you're finding that soft maple that's, 12 to 14 inches. I try not to go any bigger than that, but your 6, 8, 10, 12-inch soft maple stuff. I mean, even if you go through, the idea is right is to keep that cambium layer alive, because that's where that food and that water is going through, and bend it down. But it's very specific per the region, but that's the best thing I've ever found to reference a question like that.
Yeah.
Is if it's an easy one to split, just make sure you time it so it's not too cold. There's really not anything that you're going to, like popple, for example, or we call it popple up north, or poplar or aspen.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a good tree to hinge cut to begin with.
Okay.
So if you're in an area that has no structure and it's all poplar or aspen, right? And you take a bunch of that small stuff and cut it down and make rabbit habitat out of it, and there's nothing to hinge cut, then you hinge it to give you a little structure, because it's going to die. But when that dies, you'll have something else in the future. But that's one that it's best to just flush cut it, because it'll stump jump. It puts the energy back in the ground, and it'll stump jump, and it'll regenerate up to like 7,000 shoots per acre in the rootstock, right?
Yeah.
So it's way more alive in the dirt than you're ever going to get from the stump, because it's not going to regenerate, right? So or it's going to die. So them are the ones you just have to really study. I highly recommend getting like that app, Picture This app.
Yep.
Is an app on our phones, or they make a carded book that you carry with you. But that's I hope that helps, but it's kind of it's not maybe the most educated answer in the world, but that's easy, right?
I always thought, like, don't, just to be safe, and don't hinge cut in the winter, and wait till like right before spring, like maybe March, April, when it warms up in March and it's warm for a few days. Because the way I looked at it was, anything that's growing, it's dormant right now, but I'm thinking it's frozen inside the tree. So I didn't want to cut it and have it be brittle and break, but I didn't think of the softwood, hardwood, stringy wood, stuff like that.
Your winter, to be honest with you, now when we say winter, right? Winter in Michigan or northern PA or New York, you probably don't want to be out there doing it anyway, because it's miserable. So a lot of that's done in February, March. You start getting those warmer days or something, right? But there's really, like Kentucky. I mean, I think we close. I try not, and it depends on the year, right? And what your goal is. But I try not to do any of that stuff real heavy until later, because it's a health standard for the deer. You don't want to get in there and drive them all off with a chainsaw, right? But on the other hand, if there's no food, and you have this in your mind that you're trying to create food for next year and cover, you probably have right now, with just the woody shrub tips or the woody ends of the tree are 60 feet in the air. If you think that you might, northern Michigan, the UP of Michigan is a perfect example. Northern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin north is full of aspen, right, and poplar, popple. And when them winter conditions get hard, we've actually saved herds by going in and getting and knocking a bunch of stuff down so they can eat it.
So putting the browse right in their face, basically.
Putting the browse right down, So it's the woody shrub tip. Then in the future, it'll be the browse that regenerates off the log and stuff. But to get them through, so if you want to find sheds, well, then don't start the chainsaws in the middle of the winter. Let them be there, right? If that's part of your game plan. But if they need food, then maybe you do it sooner. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of variables.
No, that makes sense. Now, what is, real quick while we're on that, and then we'll get into the main topic, but when is, like, and I'm going to say PA specific, okay? I'm going to talk, because that's where I am. When is too late to hinge cut? Like, when would you stop hinge cutting and not continue on? Like, what time of the year would you do that?
Always like to, so on a hunting side of it, right? I always want to make sure that I always like to try to give a farm 30 days of rest.
After hunting?
No, well, before hunting season starts. So if you're asking, when do you end, right?
Okay.
So 30 days before. So if your season opens October 1st, Labor Day weekend is probably the last of my chore list and my tree cuttings or whatever.
Okay.
On the other side of that, I always tell folks this is I do work on the road, right? I'm designing. We run strong until about Labor Day. And usually about July or August is when I find folks will be like, well, I wish I could have got you here earlier, or when we're booking this time of the year. Cause I mean, most of it's
Yeah.
done. I'm booked until June or something, you know what I mean? I've got holes in the schedule, but folks are like, well, man, I wish I can't book with you because you can't, I'm not gonna be able to do any of the work. I always
Okay.
encourage folks, this. It's not that I'm trying to take your money, and I'm not saying there's anybody else out there that couldn't help you and get there quicker. But I'm saying this is something to really think about. If I don't get to your property until July, and probably about 80% of the farms that I go on are not habitat correct, but 100% of farms, not 100, 90% of farms that I go on have food, right? Available food, but it's 60 feet in the air.
Yeah.
So that time of the year, unlike right now in the winter, that time of the year, there is more leaf out on them trees and leaf stock that they can eat that they'll never get through. I mean, one tree, yes, but if you're doing a bunch of stuff right in different areas,
Yeah.
they'll never get through the leaf stock, let alone the woody browse shrub tips, let alone they'll never reach it. I mean, they'll never
Yeah.
eat it all, right? So I always encourage folks is that there's something to be said, because I've got stories upon stories upon stories that I can share with you, that a lot of people that have taken that advice and got the design done late and started the chainsaws, and yeah, it's hot and it's miserable and buggy and whatever, right? But um, if you've got a window and you can put some tree, even if it's not perfect,
Yeah.
right? If it's starting it, maybe it's just canopy release and there is no hinge cuts involved, but you're knocking a whole canopy, taking the big trees down, whatever, right? You get that stuff on the ground. There are a lot of my clients that are going to tell you the best year they ever had was the first year. And the
Yeah.
reason is they had no food before. We're talking
Yeah.
these hard, and it's I don't even know the number. 75% of properties I go on that have timber, you can see 200 yards, right?
Yeah.
300 yards through the timber, and that's not the
No
place.
food.
That's not the look we want, right? So if you
Yep.
put that stuff down, it's a complete game changer. It really is. So
Yep. Yeah.
I'm just encouraging folks, don't overlook that timeline. And don't think that you have to stop in, there's this myth out there, right? You can't hinge cut and you should stop doing all your habitat work. And any consultant that does any habitat work past March is just stealing your money. And
Yeah. That's farthest from the truth
it's
for sure.
farthest from the truth. It's
And
horrible.
like, and I heard this on one of your videos recently, and I just wanted to say to the people, if you haven't watched any of Josh's videos, his last couple videos that he just did are awesome videos. All his videos are very informational, but I really got into the last couple that you did. I just wanted to mention that to the folks that are in here, especially my dad. I would go, and he watches you already, but definitely go over and look at that stuff that he just put out here recently. It's really, really good and informational, and we
The
can use
only
it.
thing, the only thing, Ted, that I would encourage folks to watch is if you're in an area that is known for or has it's under the blight term, right? So
Yep.
if it's a oak wilt or something going on, and that's just as simple as a walk in there and seeing it, or if your USDA office can tell you, hey, that we don't log white oak past July 15th, because if it
Gotcha.
falls, it's a plume, right? It plumes and goes to the next one, and it can get carried away. That it's not real common anymore right now. There's a
Okay.
few isolated areas
That's
around
good
the
to know,
country
though,
that
for
have it,
sure.
but that'd be one of the ones that would be like,
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Cool. And because like you come out with an outstanding number, like I was surprised too, even for me. And I knew that browse was, and you come up with it never gets less than 50% of their diet.
no,
So that is pretty crazy to think that, like you get all this food and food plots and all this stuff, but the deer need that woody browse, and an acorn is not considered woody browse.
acorn is
Yeah.
hard mast, just like a
Mm-hmm.
chestnut is hard mast, very, very, very hard to digest.
Yep.
um, like corn can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to digest, and so they have to have more. And like I've always told everybody, right, is you can have 30-inch brassicas, you can have the most beautiful food plots. You want to talk about some clients that have green thumb, and I'm not that guy, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, green thumb can grow some awesome stuff, have the best equipment in the world, have $100,000 worth of equipment, 30-inch brassicas, and they don't have any browse in the timber. And guess who shoots all the deer? The guy that just had it logged, because
Yeah.
he's got all the browse. So you can have 30-inch brassicas, but whoever has the browse wins, right? This
Yep,
time of the
for
year.
sure.
So yes, it never drops below 50% of their diet is never less than 50% is woody browse
Yeah.
that fills that void,
That's a
right? So
crazy number. That's a
the further
crazy
you
number.
go north, where you're at, it's probably
Mhm.
75, 80%.
Yeah. Yeah.
80 probably. Where I'm originally from in central Michigan, it's 90. The upper peninsula, it's 85, 90. The upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, right, is 90% of that intake is woody browse. I don't, your food plots are probably under 2 foot of snow up there right now, so it does you no good. But it's a huge, huge, huge piece of
Yeah.
the puzzle. It's like a cow with alfalfa, right, or a good hay stock, and it's that churn in their stomachs, and it creates warmth.
Yeah.
So as they're eating, they're building, and they lay around, and especially horrible weather conditions, they're expending all of that stuff, and they might not be able to get to uh, those high carb areas like your beans, your standing beans, and your cornfields and stuff like
Yeah.
that, if there's anything left this time of the year. And that the browse is king. There's two
Yeah.
pieces of the puzzle in this world that are very simple and probably the top of the food chain that everybody overlooks. One is
Yeah.
woody browse, and the other one is cereal rye. If you did
Yeah.
nothing else and saved yourself a boatload of money, you can have a chainsaw, have
A bag of rye
a bag of rye, and
and you're good to go.
you could be
Yeah.
pretty set in the community.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
there's a lot
No,
more to it than that, but
yeah,
that's
for
a lot
sure.
of it.
For sure. All right. Yeah,
Yep.
because when I asked Josh before we got on here was about, the bucks that I haven't been seeing. We've seen a lot of bucks early in the season, like around that Halloween week and 2 weeks before that. And then all the bucks disappeared. And Josh had mentioned that it may be a reason for the browse, the browse. And I know behind my dad's stand, and you could see the next food plot, you could see 200 yards through. You can kick a soccer ball through the woods. So that's not good. So we're going to be looking at putting some browse down in their faces for next year for sure.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah,
we're gonna do.
that's the first thing that jumps to my mind when somebody. That's why I asked you: were they there early? Were they there last year, late season? What's
Yeah,
changed? And usually it's a food related issue, right? But you're also hunting an area like I'm originally from high pressure. Anywhere in the country this time of the year, when you're
yeah,
90 days into a season, I mean anything is high pressured,
yeah,
right, or pressured. It's
yeah,
all very region specific, right? But um, that could have a lot to do with it.
yeah.
I
They are logging on the property next to us. We have some
Yeah.
Amish over there that there was a ton of woods, but they're just taking the woods out and they are making cattle fields. And
Oh yeah.
that was the reason why I thought we had all the bucks over on our property early in the season, was because of that work they were doing, and
Mhm.
they took out 1,000 acres of woods.
Oh wow. Well,
Easy.
if
So
they're not working or they're shorter hours and stuff right now,
yeah,
all that is exactly what we just talked about, right? All that
yep.
woody shrub tip is on the grounds in there, and then tops and structure and
It's going
thermal
to be tough,
protection
and they're over there eating it. Yeah,
yep,
exactly. And I think that's what's happening.
yep, very
So,
well could be.
yeah. And it might just be that, and maybe our property. And like I said, we're going to use you to help us
Yep.
try to fix that. But like early season is king down there. We have since we started doing the food plots and everything, we've been seeing a lot more bucks and bigger deer down there, and doing that. But that little stuff that we're missing, like the woody browse and the stuff to keep them there, and
Yeah.
keeping the beds and everything there. I believe we have enough bedding. I think we do, but it doesn't hurt to put more in. It doesn't hurt to put that food in their face for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yep.
all right.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, go ahead. I'm
No, I
sorry.
was just going to say
Okay.
sometimes we walk into an area, and somebody will say exactly what you said. We think we have enough. And my thing is the way I answer that real quick is if you don't know you have enough bedding and enough food, you don't have enough.
Yep, I got you.
It should
I
be
got
like, oh God, that's way, I mean, it's thick, nasty, full of
Yeah.
browse. Because a lot of people like the sanctuary word, right? We'll use the sanctuary. You'd be shocked on how many people are, you know, folks I help a year, I get on there like, oh, that's a 10-acre sanctuary, 20 acres. And I'm there not during hunting season. And they're like, I said, well, we're going to walk in there. Nope, nope. Oh no, we can't go in there. I mean, this is July, right? Or June.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? And so you walk in there and it's got thermal cover. It's all a bunch of pines and there's zero food. There's no beds. So they've been hunting around this for 10 years, 20 years. And I can almost hear my clients deflate behind me like,
Yeah.
oh shit, you know,
Yeah.
we've been
Yep.
hunting around this thing for all these
And there ain't
years
no deer there. Yeah,
and
there's
there's no
no
deer
deer.
there. Like, wait a minute. And it
Yeah.
can be cured because there's probably, you know, if you got pines, there's probably a lot of them hardwoods that need to come down. There's, you know, a bunch of the maples that are in there. You hinge, all of a sudden, you've got this little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
And not then all of a sudden it becomes a bedding area, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep, for sure,
yep.
for sure. All right. Well, we are going to get into the main topic, and
Yep.
I am going to let Josh just roll with this because it was his idea. He wanted to get on this topic, and he wanted to get it out there because he thinks more people should know, and he wanted to do, you know, this thermal. And we're going to be talking about thermals and how, you know, it relates to hunting and however else you want to bring the thermals into play. You have the floor. Yep.
Okay.
It's all you.
Well, the last meeting that we had with each other,
Yep.
we hit on contour, right? And if anybody follows me at all or knows any of my back history, you know, I grew up in Central Michigan, kind of hunting flat ground, let's say, right? We had a little contour, thankfully, but flat ground. Went to West Central Illinois, ran a big lodge down there for years, cut my teeth in the outdoor industry in West Central Illinois, Pike County. And that's what started this whole thing, right? Years and many moons ago, dating myself, but many years ago. And it's full of contour, right? So I went from, hey, you just play the wind. I mean, to be honest with you, my dad was a rifle hunter, and at a early age, right, growing up, born and raised on a dairy farm, they just hunted, right? They didn't care. You had your favorite gun stand. you know,
No
you
matter
know,
what the wind was, you just went there.
oh yeah, you've all seen it. Doesn't take very long to drive around a community, and I laugh about it now because it's just like you drive around Michigan and in Wisconsin, for example, it's full of it. But it's just a huge tradition, right? But it
Yep.
just you just hunted, you know,
Yeah.
and went across wide open fields to get there in the mornings. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, if I could have
Yeah.
that farm, if I could have that farm and that situation back, oh man, what could I really have on the wall, right? so,
Yeah. Yep.
so anyway, and then you know, just hunting the wind after I got into bow hunting. Luckily, a great friend of mine is actually my dad's like brother, they're neighbors, if you will. But growing up as kids, he's an avid bow hunter and started saying, "Hey, you can't do that," you know, at like 10 and 12 years old. So that started all of this, and and then really understanding when I went to Illinois, right? I get down there and, you know, well, 19, 20 years old, I don't have to tell you, you think you know everything. And um, you get down there and it's like, well, I can hunt this spot because it's a north wind and, you know, there's this trail that I scouted and I'm in the middle of the farm. But this is a trail and there's three trails coming in and there's a scrape and I'm on the downwind side of it and I can do this. And, you know, you hang the stand and boy, it looks pristine, right? And put the client in there. And about 20 minutes later, the client calls you and says, "Hey, I'm getting winded. What's going on? The wind's in my face." "Well, I don't know, man. You must not have your scent controls regimen. You must have been smoking a cigarette."
Yeah.
Had all kinds of excuses,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, there's something to this. Now I'm talking early 90s, right? So like, okay, so we started digging into this, and that's where that whole contour thing that I went over with you guys before, figuring out how these communities are connected, right? Hunting that hard line and hunting that contour and finding out what contour really means. And are we hunting above it? Are we hunting below it? How we're accessing it, right? All of a sudden, we started really taking this success down there at the lodge, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
to the next level when we understood that thermals
Mm-hmm.
are king, right? And I hate to use that term all the time, but there's certain things that hold a very high pedestal, right? And that is one of them. Thermals will so let's just throw this out there, right? there's a lot of folks that hunted just like all of us have, and we've hunted the wind and we understand that, even when it comes into a strategy side of it, like hunting the downwind side of bedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing to look at though is not every spot is created equal, in that thermal will always trump the wind.
Mm-hmm.
There's folks out there. I'm just trying to help everybody um, get there quicker. You know, my slogan
Mm-hmm.
is, in this business, I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And if the two of them things line up, great.
Yep.
You know, but if not, if I'm got to be the bad guy, I guess I got to be the bad guy. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to tell you the truth, right? And the truth is, thermals flow like water,
Mm-hmm.
and the thermal pull will always beat the wind. So, well, it doesn't work that way in the West. Well, I guess when I was out there guiding mule deer and elk in the West, oh, you lived out there, yeah. So you don't go to the Western states and think you're going to hunt deer or elk like you hunt the Midwest or the South
Yeah.
without a high chance of being lucky, right? Because the thermals will whip you.
Yeah.
They will humble you real quick.
And
So
I wanted to mention something real quick while you're just
yep.
for a second. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that point that I was coming across before was this year I got busted.
Mm-hmm.
And I started using the milkweed and everything last year, like
Yep.
to check thermals. And the wind was it was a south, no, it was a west wind, so it was blowing in my face. It was hitting me in the face here and blowing up over the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I have obviously my bait piles and all that in the thickets in front of me. So I'm like, the wind's perfect for today.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm in there, and in the morning, it's 5-6 mile an hour wind, and I'm sitting there, and I threw my milkweed up, and the milkweed didn't go to my right and go up. The milkweed went down and down the hill. Okay. But the
Yep.
winds, I could feel the wind hitting my face, but the milkweed went down and went right down the hill. After the buck busted me, I did that.
Yep.
And he was coming up the hill, and I didn't move. I heard him coming, and he caught my thermals. And that's exactly what he did. He caught my thermals, and he snorted and he ran off. And I'm like, how did he win me? The wind's in my face. I threw out my milkweed, and the milkweed went right down to where that buck was, and he was gone.
Yep.
So I am on board 100% with thermals.
Yeah,
Just
well,
from that
and
experience this year.
Sadly, it takes that experience.
Yep.
And sadly, it takes that experience a lot for folks to understand what is happening, right?
Yep.
So that example is perfect. So you mentioned, right, where my brain goes, you mentioned an AM hunt.
Yes.
And you're above it. So
and I'm thinking my thermals
yep.
are going to take me up the hill.
Yep. So you're thinking you're probably on the top third, and everything is right. But what like I said, every spot's different. So thermals don't always rise, and they don't all in the morning, and they don't always sink in the PM.
Yep.
Now, 90% of thermals will rise in the morning, and 90% of thermals will fall in the PM.
Yeah.
But what in the morning before, let's say, is it a crystal clear morning and it's super cold, and the first, when it cracks daylight, your sun is up and you're on a level playing field. You're on a river shelf where you're hunting the first ridge system from a, perfect example where I lived in Illinois.
South facing
South facing slope. But let's say it's the river shelf is 10 miles in the bottoms, and you're the first across the road. That's the first hills, and your farm is there. Well, that sunlight, when it comes up way to that's in that southern sky, right, comes up in the east, sets in the west, it's gonna hit that slope. So probably your thermals are probably going to raise a heck of a lot quicker than Joe's thermals that are 5 miles inside of the ridge system, right?
Yeah, basically like in the shade. It's like that's how you
exactly.
Can do that.
You're on the south facing slope. He's on the north facing slope. So his thermals in the morning are actually sinking, because if your sun comes up, right, your thermals are going to pull because it's heating up the slope. But that playing field on the other side of the ridge system
creates a vacuum.
It creates a vacuum. So guess what happens is that yours is coming up. It's creating a shadow, right? It's creating a shadow on that ridge system. His thermals are dropping before they raise. They will eventually raise, unless might be what happened in your situation is if it's a cloudy day,
It was.
right? If it's a cloudy day or overcast, your wind is going to trump because there is no major thermal pull, and then your wind is going to Yeti, right? It's got enough thermal. It's probably the ground has heat in it, but it's pulling and wanting to go, and the wind overtakes it, right?
It brings it back down. That's where you get your swirling winds at on a hill.
Yep. So, people are going to say, well, you just said that thermals are king and they always trump the wind. If your thermals have the thermal energy to pull it, right? So if that is in motion, I don't care if you got 80-mile-an-hour winds, your thermals are going to overpower the wind. But if you have no wind or you have no thermals in there and you're just relying on a little bit of it, it can keep it at bay, but it'll eventually win, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, it's going to win. But so one thing I've got a spot here on the farm. Actually through on the school app, I just did a really in-depth, not on this topic, but of this spot. I've got a spot on the farm here that I've got a gun blind that overlooks. It's on the south fence row looking north. In the front of the gun blind, it goes down to about 75 yards, and the bank on the other side transition is at the foot of that.
I saw that. It was the perfect gun stand, you said?
Oh, it is. It's just, I wish I could take everybody and sit everybody in there just to experience that and what you really are looking at and how things work. But like if I'm sitting in that gun blind, right, I'm looking down the transitions on the bottom half of that because the thermals are pulling down into that. So all the doe bedding is above it, right? So in the morning, my thermals are the reason I can hunt at AM and PM is because the thermals are raising past me in the stand, and I can look over on that bank, and as it's raising this way, right, all the dander in the air is sinking. On that slope, right? And you'd be shocked on how many bucks cruise the bottom half of that on the transition in the morning.
They're checking that doe bedding that's above it.
That buck right there is exactly what he was doing, is scent checking it and at the bottom of it in the morning, and it's 100 yards from the stand. So all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, the thermals are crawling up that bank, and it's a south facing slope. It's drawing so much heat, right? So sometimes, right, you have to, once you understand your farm, and here's the catch of the whole thing with thermals, Ted, is one spot on your farm, right, could be, hey, I can get there in the morning. I can get there half hour or 45 minutes before daylight, and I can hunt this knowing that as soon as the day breaks, my thermals are rising.
Yeah.
The other stand, right, is a stand 200 yards from there, 300 yards from there, and it's in a spot that you might have to sit at the base of the tree or sit at preferably the other side of the ridge or 100 yards from there or something in a safe zone with a flashlight off and wait until gray light and wait until you can see, and then you can let the thermals kick in and then get in the stand and take advantage of that so you don't get busted if you're above that line of travel, right? The other side of it is there's only certain, a lot of people will say, well, I have a stand that I have a double set. I'm, folks that understand thermals and are trying to beat a thermal, right? They say, okay, I hang a stand below it for at dark or in the morning. I get into that stand and I hunt there until about 8 o'clock, right? And 9 o'clock until the thermals start raising. And I get down and jump in the other stand and go up. Well, it's two things with that. There's probably only a half dozen stands in the country that I've ever seen that could work, that I'd be a nervous wreck getting down out of that and getting into the next stand. Two is that other stand, where is your wind blowing? Because if your other stand that is for the thermal, what that tells me is you're blowing your wind into the core. So very seldom does a stand ever have a AM or PM or a potential to be something that you could get in the morning, wait till the thermals, cut the line of travel, get in the stand, and then be safe, and then hunt till 3 o'clock and get out of Dodge before the thermals sink again or flip again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There are out there lakes at the bottom of the bottom of the ridge, river shelves at the bottom of the ridge, something like that, something we're going to talk about here. But it's very uncommon. So what I always tell folks is this, is the one thing I can do to help everybody in ridge country. It's a huge, I mean, there is, it's the, in my opinion, it's the, it's the most, uh, bag of, it's got the most variables than any landscape feature or any hunting strategy. You'll there's nothing else out there that'll throw you so many different curves and have so many different variables, right? But the people that figure it out are the guys in your neighborhood that are killing the big bucks.
Yeah.
It time after time after time. So what I always encourage folks is to do this. Is number one, when you, so this ties into something, but when you have a farm, right? And most of the time we're trying to build a core, right? We're trying to keep if you have 100 acres, let's just use raw numbers. You have 100 acres, I'm trying to get you at least 50% of the farm to be core, deer and deer only, no scent going into it, no walking through it, nothing. Now in ridge country, like here, I have internal access because I've got a ridge with no food on it that I can access and hunt down off the side. So maybe in ridge country and thermal reasons, right, you have internal access.
Okay.
So one thing to think about, right, is when you're trying to build that core, it might be in two places. It might be a solid core, whatever that presents, right? First and foremost, we're trying to build a solid core. And if you have to split it, there's ways, right? But one thing to think about is if you're in that core and you're trying to get that 50% core built, at least 50%, most of the times I can get you about 75, right? If you're walking down the fence row, you start on the outside and you're on your fence row, so you're blowing your scent into your neighbors unless you know it's a area he just hinge cut or something.
And that outside of the core is your no dare areas, is where you can access and walk around, where you don't the core areas where you don't want to access, but the stuff on the outside is I mean, there's going to be deer in those areas, but that's what you consider the no deer area.
Well, you have to have so what starts this whole piece of the puzzle here, right? You have to have, every farm has to have a non-deer areas, multiple, right? And what I refer to is that the easiest way to explain it is it always has something to do with your access. So if you can tell me that you can't get inside of your farm to access, which is the first and foremost goal, if you're accessing from the outside, what that creates is your tree stand 25 yards off the fence row, looking in. Don't be the guy that's looking to the outside, looking in because of this reason. Looking in, is it 50 yards in? Is it 100 yards in? Wherever that is. And you go all the way around the farm and you have that stand assemblage, right? So now you have this core and your stands are all the outside. Well, you're going to have a rim. I call it the outside rim, right? That rim is where your TSI is. That's your timber stand improvement. That's different video, but same concept here, right? TSI is timber stand improvement for beautiful boards per foot, right?
Okay. That's like the forest.
FSI, so that's the outside, because you don't want any habitat in it. You don't want any bedding. You don't want any hinge cuts in it. Nothing behind the stands, right?
Yep.
Your FSI is your forest stand improvement, and that's internal. So you get to the stand, your licking branch and your line of travel is 25 yards out in front of you, and then you go to the next stand 200 yards down, and that's 50 yards off the fence row. And so you have this rim, and it's real jagged or real loopy or real wavy, I guess is the word, right, all the way around the farm. And then now you know where the core is, right? Because if I get to a farm, Ted, and I, like right now, if I said, okay, let's just use your Ohio piece, and I said, how much core do you have? And you're gonna be, well, I got bedding here, I got some open timber here, I did some hinge cutting, I don't know. Well, when we get done and you say, hey, I got 80 acres, and I'm gonna say, when we're done, I'm gonna say, what do you got for core? You're gonna say 56.3 acres. It's that quick. And the reason is you know where that line of travel is, and you know what is core. And yes, your food plots are part of the core that we don't want to be walking through and blowing deer off from, and that's part of the puzzle, right? So once you have that, you're walking to these stand assemblages. What you need to do is you need to read this part of the thermal hunting strategy, right? And so even before you hang the stand, but I mean, so now we know the structure, right? But you're getting into your stand, and if that line of travel that you're hunting let's just say stand 1 out of 10.
Okay.
You get to it, it's a west wind. You're walking down your fence row, and your stand is 40 yards off the fence row, and you're looking in, and your elevation, your contour line's above you, and it's elevated up. Well, that's a first and foremost, you're below the line of travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if you already know the wind, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't find the spot, then hang the tree stand for the wind. You know the wind. If you're on your east fence row, you know it's a west wind before you even get there, right?
Yep.
So you get to that spot, you're below the line of travel, so automatically it's a PM sit.
Yep.
Because you're below the line of travel, right? So what you start looking at is, okay, those are closer to the road, right? Or closer to your parking spot or closer to the house.
Okay.
So I can get into this one easy because I don't have to walk, I can maybe I got to walk past the food plot, but it's well screened. And this is only 50 yards in the woods. I can get into that one PM easy, not blowing any deer out, going to catch them on the way out to food. Perfect.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
What I'm saying, Ted, is that is blueprinted. This is where people get themselves in trouble with thermals. The good Lord has blueprinted your farm, and the man has put the fence lines in there. The deer don't care where that fence line is. They know where that contour line is, and they know how they're navigating around this. And you're just now have to figure out how to hunt it, right? So what you're doing is you access in, and you get there, and it's PM. So hey, between a lot of bed and food, going out to food, that's PM sit. I can get in. Great. Go to the next one.
Yep.
Right. Go to the next one. The next one might be 100 yards in. So now we're on an 80, and it's like, I'm halfway through the farm now. Well, you get to that one, and that one is below the line too. Oh, man, that's another PM. I need an AM sit. So what happens is people get there. Yep. I'm still below it. The contour leaves, it goes up. I'm below it. I need an AM sit. So they go across that line, and they go up there and they hang a stand above it for a AM sit. And that's where the problems arise because they're trying to hunt above it in the morning when it's blueprinted to be below it.
Yeah.
So if that presents, right, if you get to a spot and it's halfway through the farm and it's something that, and you're going to start pre-rut, start hunting mornings, and you're going to want to hunt that in the mornings, right? You got to look at that like, okay, do I have a way to make this AM and PM? So whether I'm going to hunt all day or not, can I if you're going to cut that line of travel at all, which I don't recommend, and
you don't want to cross that path, basically.
Yep. Until we get to this point. So you're doing everything not to. The perfect farm. Let's touch on this before we go into this next step.
Yeah.
If the perfect farm is you walk down your fence row. The first stand is below it. Second stand, this is just in random order, but first stand's below it. You go 200 yards, the next stand is above it. You go another 200 yards, it's below it. And then you get 3 in a row or 2 in a row, that's above it. And then if you get really lucky, the ones that are back in the farm furthest that you're not going to hunt until morning, or pre-rut are above the line of travel. So it's a lot of AM hunting, right? Hopefully those are back further in the farm so you don't go in there anyway, right? So that's the perfect farm that gives you an opportunity. So your east fence line might have 3 stands, 3-4 stands that are 2 stands that are AM, 2 that are PM. Okay. You turn the corner and now you're on your north fence row and you got 2 or 3 different ones there. And all of a sudden now you've got a wind for AM west wind, you got a wind for AM PM, you got a wind for north south, you know what I'm saying? AM PM, north wind, south wind. You can hunt the whole perimeter. And that's the best farm. Yeah. They're not all created like that, right? So so if you get to a spot and you're okay, I'm still below it. And so I get this question, right? Well, this sounds great, but there's the predominant wind in my area is southwest or west. Well, the whole east side of my farm is below the line of travel, and I can't hunt it in the mornings. So what do I do? Well, this is where I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, comes in. The first and foremost thing is, unless there's this next piece of the puzzle that fits you, which is very uncommon, you wait until that's right, because your habitat is going to be set up for that wind. So putting him and you there at the same time. So don't cheat the system. It's blueprinted, right? Them are the best farms, right? That's how you keep the pressure low. You're not trying to make it something that it's never going to be. You couldn't, the way I explain this, right, is you couldn't take enough excavation, not that you would ever do this, but you couldn't take enough excavation equipment and put it on 80 acres and change the contour.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it. I mean, you can put a bench on the contour and do some manipulation that we do, but you're not going to change it or take it away, right?
Okay.
You can
and you're
make
talking about you're talking about the contour line, and you were saying something about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when you're looking at a map like a topo map and they have that thicker line, is that the contour line you're talking about, like we should be looking at, or is that another, are you going to mention that later on down the road here?
So yes and no. So what I'm saying is you might have a farm that has, the best way to explain it, right, Ted, is yes, you're looking for what line is better than the next. So folks that don't understand contour, sometimes I would recommend understanding contour and then thermals and then tying it together first, so you kind of understand what you're looking at first, right? But if I'm on that east fence row and I'm, like I was telling you in a past video, is I used to hang my stands from the truck and a map before I even got out. I knew where I was going, and I knew that was a west wind, and I just had to pick the tree when I got there, get there. It was real proficient, right? But when I was first started out, like guiding or hunting, I'd take the stand with me. I'd take 4 stands with me, and it'd take me 2 days because I was looking for that perfect spot. Well, when I was guiding, I'd take a dozen with me in the morning and be back by noon with getting a dozen more, because I already knew I wasn't cheating the system. It's a blueprint. I just stay below it, right? Or stay above it. If my access is high, I'm staying above it, right? That's how you keep a pressure low on a farm. So to answer your question directly, yes, that contour line there. So you can get on Onyx or Hunt Stand or Spartan Forge or whatever that we use or Hunt Stand. And the reason I use Hunt Stand is because of this. Now there's ways to manipulate this on other ones, but if you are there and you're looking up the ridge, right, and there's a multitude of contour lines, I mean, anybody can tell you that, you turn on, like Onyx has got a feature that'll tell you 10 foot, right? I don't need to know that the contour changes 10-foot elevation from here to the top of the ridge. I can obviously see that that's higher than where I'm standing. Right?
And like I just pulled this up on my phone, but you can see the white contour lines there. That's what we're like talking about right there, guys.
So your lighter contour lines are a contour feature. But what your goal is to find, if you get lucky enough and you're looking for now, since this is all out, right, it's called the fat line is what people call it, but it's the dark line. And what that is that dark line, people think it's just because it's on 100 foot or it's a 200 foot or it's a 300 foot. Well, it could be, but it's not always just that. Like a lot of times you'll get somewhere and it'll have, that line will be 100 foot is lit, what I call lit. It's darker, right? And then 400 is lit, and it's like, well, it's just because it's on the 100-foot mark. Well, show me 200 and show me 300 then. It's not there, and the reason for it is because it's not. What that is those darker lines are your harder breaks. The system has picked up a more drastic bench, if you will. So you could look at it and say, oh, I mean, I don't see the bench. But you walk up there and 95% of the time, 99.9% of the time, there's a deer trail on it because they can feel it. It's there. Clients that I get to that don't think they have contour, I flip that on and they have a contour line like that. If you're going to buy a farm, try to find one that's got one of these. It's the native, that's your native your community contour line.
That's
around what community, right?
That's the God-given, line for you. Right there.
You can build school, like I say, right? You can build schools on it, put fences on it, tip trees on it. They're gonna leave it, they're gonna go right back to it. The trick is it 10 miles and we can only take advantage of 2 or 3 of it, or you get lucky and it's 3 miles or whatever the case is, right?
So, or it's all in your land. That circle is in your land.
Or it's all on you.
That's awesome.
Which is very uncommon. I've got a client that's got a 40 that it's all on in his, and but it's great and not great because they can, it's just on 40 and then they leave it, right? But so you look for that, right? But what that tells you is most properties, sometimes you'll get lucky sometimes you get lucky, right? And you're on your east fence row in that dark line and it's full of sign and you have to stay below it and it's paralleling your fence row. Boy, what a blessing, right? But a lot of times it's not. It cuts the back 40 or it only goes across or in and out as one side of your farm and the other. And what that is, right, is that's why you have a bypass property, is because they're on it. What's the chances that the oak wilt or trees have died or something is going to be on the right side of that you need to hunt the downwind side of it, right?
I got you.
Now, it might be that there's a bunch of sign, but usually, guess what? It's in the center of the property, and that's where, here we go, right? We're getting ourselves in trouble because we're hunting sign and you're in the center of the property. So if it happens, that's where the building part of it comes in when we're on private grounds, right? You let the deer come into your farm about 40, 50, 60 yards, whatever that is, and then we're turning them left or right. So we're creating our own transition and our own deal, and we're spinning them around the farm. And then when they get to that point on the other side of the farm, they're leaving, and then they're coming back, and it's a circulation, right?
And you're trying to keep them on your farm as long as possible as well.
Correct. Yeah, you're trying to create this hornet's nest, and this all ties into this thermal talk, right? Is because if you respect that community flow. Not that we, as private landowners, can't tweak it and change it and put a blocker here and build better habitat so they're holding deer and they're scent checking, it all this ties in. But before you start the chainsaw, right, don't start the chainsaw unless you know if you have one of those or where it's at.
Yes.
Because if it is a blessing, and it is, there's a lot of it, that you get on a property and it parallels your access. Well, it's there. Just respect it. So that's you need to know, if you didn't do the full habitat Monty, let's call it, right, and really build a mecca and spin them around the property, you can take your hunting success and put it through the roof, probably 80% higher than it is now, just by not cutting that line and not stinking it up. Because you want to be the guy in the neighborhood that's, when that buck is cruising that, going from point A to point B, scent checking habitat that's on it, that's probably a half mile or quarter mile apart, unlike what you're going to have on your farm. But he's traveling that bench, right? He's going maybe sometimes half a mile to find the next one that is good for his nose and is holding deer and whatever. You don't want to be the guy in the neighborhood that he's going down that and he picks you up.
Yep. No, I get it, because he's actually going down that contour and he's checking for deer that cut that line so he can make a right or left. He's walking parallel to find those doe trails going into the core and coming out. So
yes, and and the them does, any deer, but they have that interdigital gland in that hoof. So if the idea is right, is any deer that travel that, he is scent checking on that trail, right? If he wants to be on it. But what you'll find is them hard lines, right? A lot of times what you'll find is this is where this whole thing comes into this, is if you just go in and say, hey, I got to go halfway up the ridge because that's where the 600-foot mark is, let's say, and Josh said stay below it and don't blow it up, right? Don't put my stink on it. I just know I got to hunt it on a north wind or a west wind, let's say, anything out of the west, southwest, west, and it's got to be PM, so my thermal sync, and I'm just going to respect it. You go up there and you hang 25 yards from that line. Well, guess what? You're in there, and the first evening sit that you sit, somebody blows behind you. So what's that tell us, right? Before you hang on that hard line, 25 yards from it, before you hang that set, you have your stand. When you first hang it, you go up there, you find the tree, it makes sense, right? You get to the trail. Before you hang that, you take a walk 200 yards each way, up and down that trail. And if this is where the public thing comes in, right? Or leased ground where you can't manipulate the habitat, right? You go for a walk, and what you'll find is, if you get lucky, all of that native correct holes in the canopy, and maybe somebody else did hinge cutting or some FSI, whatever the case is, and you go to because you're on that and it's going south. Let's say you walk to the south and it's like, all that stuff is above the line of travel, and boy, he can sense that's good for me and good for him. Then you turn around and you go the other way, but you go to the north and all that correct habitat is below it.
Yeah.
So what happens is you've got to take a law of averages. So if more of it is above it, then hang there, because your chances of him being on that trail to scent check it are
Or
better,
better.
because he has to be below it, right? But if it's a 50-50, or if there's habitat on both sides equally, what you do is you back that stand off there, even though you're not on that.
So you
just
don't push
because,
them, and then you can see for
well,
yourself.
he's going to be scent checked. So he's going to scent check that, though, with thermals.
Yes.
He's going to scent check it from 25 yards below it on the next bench. So it might not be the hard line, because he can walk 25 yards below it and scent check every doe that's been on that trail, that hard line from above it, without even touching it, because he can smell it. All their stink is on it, right? All deer and the interdigital, all of them have it. And so he can cruise. So now he's getting the wind, he's getting the thermals, he's covering way more ground. And then if, the goal is on private land is to find the stand and run a blocker or something behind him or down below, and
make him come in front of you, make him be in front,
force him to use that spot at that time, and then let him go from it, so you can build your chain of correct habitat right above it. So when you're there hunting, you have 3 or 4 other spots working for you, not just one spot, right?
I gotcha.
So that's where that thermal thing comes in, right? You got to really watch. You got to respect. So first and foremost, just make that a mental note, right?
Yeah.
You find the spot. It just happens to be that I own a half mile of fence line heading north. I'm on the east side, and it sucks, but it's all below it.
Yeah.
I don't have any AM opportunities, right? Just treat it right. What I'm saying is, if you don't have a way to do this next step we're going to talk about, to go to public ground. Don't hunt it until it's right. Do something. It'll totally change the way you hunt. One, it keeps you honest, right?
Yeah.
2, low pressure, but it totally, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, like, wait a minute, I don't need to be here.
Yeah, even if you back off of that and hunt somewhere where you're not really, if you have to be in the woods, is what I'm saying, is instead of hunting that best spot, like that spot, back off 100 or 200 yards somewhere where you're probably going to see deer, but you're not going to, it ain't going to be the deer, but you're still out there hunting, and you're in the woods and you're scouting.
Well,
up there. Is that something to do too? Like you can do that, back off?
Yeah, it is. So the best thing to do, right, if you have, so let's use this. Let's say worst case scenario, it's a piece of public ground or it's a leased property. And that sounds great, but I don't have any other options. I can't build. I can't get an east wind or on the west side of the farm for an east wind. I can't make this flow that you speak of, right? So what I always tell people is that's worst case scenario. Then you're stuck with it, right?
Yeah.
Best case scenario is you own it and you can run blockers and make it better, but you still have to respect it. Where this whole thing comes together is if you're in that stand and you want to be able to hunt that as a AM, right? Or it's so far back in, it's going to be one of those pre-rut stands that you're going to get into, rut stands, you're going to hunt all day, or you could hunt all day, right? What you need to do is, if you're going to cut that line of travel at all, you need to cut the line of travel at the scrape. Don't walk in the scrape, but right there in your shooting lane. And you need to look up above it, 20 yards from the transition above it. And you need to see if there's a potential for a leeward sit. So if you are on that stand in the PM stand, though, right, before you even go up there and even play this card, you need to look to your back. If you're in and you're on a shared fence row and your neighbor has woods that look like yours, or they potentially logged, or there's deer on your neighbors, it's not the perfect leeward wind to sit. So you don't even go up there because you don't have anywhere. Because if you go up there and you put the wind at your back on a leeward sit, like we're going to talk about, right, and you push it over their heads, it's a killing tree. But it's very rare, right? I probably find a dozen really good leeward sits for folks a year, right? So, but if you're walking on the fence row and John, the neighbor's got cattle pasture and there's nothing out there, or there's a river, or there's a big old lake, I'm looking above it.
They can't pass. Yeah, you're looking above it.
Now I can cut it. Now I can cut it and I can go above it in the morning.
Because you're blowing that out onto the lake and all that stuff.
Well, it's
I know it's more than that, but it's like bait. I'm just like talking like layman's terms, like you're blowing your scent to
correct.
somewhere where the deer are not going to be.
Deer are not. Yep. So what you're doing, right, is you're always told hunt with the wind in your face, thermals, right, respect it. The leeward sit is that's what is good for him. It's not good for us.
Yeah.
It is, but it's not. So let me explain that. When you have that opportunity, you're like, man, I'm halfway through. I can hunt this thing in the rut. I'm going to be here in the AMs. There's more of a need to be here. There's a cattle pasture. There's a lake. That's when I get excited about leeward. Now, it can't be just a gradual slope. It has to, we're talking ridge country where it's steep and it's steep, not steep, but it's got to be enough that you go above it, cut the line of travel, and you try to stay, cut him at a 45 cone somewhere there so you can use the same licking branch.
Yeah.
And preferably closer. So if your bottom stand is at like your evening sit stand, right, is at like 25 yards, you probably got to jack up higher in the tree so you're not eye level with deer, right? Something like that. Your top stand, you probably want to be 15 or 20 yards from it. So maybe flare it off, because the reason for that is the closer you are to that trail, the more of a chance, better of a chance you have to push your wind over the top of his head. Over the
top of it,
So you're on this ridge, and it takes
it's your angles basically. You're looking at your angles too when you're doing that.
Yeah, it takes a long time to get comfortable, because you're going to walk across there and you're going to get in the stand and that wind is hitting you right smack at the back of the head, and you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Because every deer in the world is going to scent me, because I've always been told to put it in my face. But the thermals, right, are raising,
and
the wind is at your back, and you're keeping that scent clean, as we call it, right? And in the morning, it's going to create a tumble. So your thermals are rising, your wind is grabbing it, and you're dumping it over their heads. That's a leeward wind, because for him, when he's cruising that, no matter if he's going north or south or east or west or whatever that situation is, right? If he's going up and down that line of travel, he's using the leeward wind. So in other words, the wind that's coming over the ground underneath your stand going down, he is using the wind in the thermal. So he's got all of the power from anything below him. He's actually scent checking your ridge and the ridge internal of your farm, because that ridge is sucking up the thermals and it's dumping it over this. So it's the military crest, right? He's here. We're here hunting him, blowing the wind this way. He's on this side of the thermals, they're the ridge. This wind's all doing it. He's covering half your farm from one trail. Hence the reason in ridge country they live longer. They're hard to beat, right? So what the deal is, though, is if you can get here and blow it over his head, I'm telling you, a leeward sit is a killing tree. Now, if you can beat him there, you've got to time it right. You'll know if you sat too long, because as soon as the thermals drop, you're going to get busted. The goal is to get down and get in that other stand if it's an all day sit, right? Or have a way to get out of Dodge. Or
because thermals are, I believe that like you were saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
nope, you're good.
The thermals, they're using their what you're like getting to is like the deer's using thermals more than people think. They're using them mostly.
Oh yeah.
That's more, thermals are more important than the wind, basically.
Well, if you think about it, right? So let's say we're on the east fence row and your transition runs north and south, your line of travel that you're hunting, right? And that deer, it doesn't matter if he's going, so this ties into my whole strategy about having a farm that's 360, but it doesn't matter if that deer is going south or if he's going north.
Yep.
Right. You don't want to hunt just a deer that's going north, because everybody, well, there's a lot of people now that'll say, well, the deer walks with the wind in its nose. And I always joke, hey, I've never seen a deer that I found on a client property in Alabama that ends up in Michigan. They just don't continue to walk north. It doesn't happen. So what happens is, right, they want to be very proficient. A mature buck, the older he gets, the more proficient he is, right? And the less he's traveling, right? So what it is if he's traveling that, let's say he is going north and it's a west wind, perfect for you, and it's a PM and he's getting the thermals, he's getting the thermal drop and he's getting the winds, but he turns his head and he's using his eyes below. So he's using all of his senses, right? He's looking down below. He's getting all the wind and thermals from above. He's that whole slope. He's got
he's covered.
right? It's covered for him. So in the morning, he maybe not on that transition. Maybe he slides up from it in the morning after the thermals start rising, right? If there's habitat above it, he just slides up 50 yards and he's up above it, and he travels, and he's not on that because he's scent checking every doe that ever touched it for the last 48 hours. He knows they're there, right? And so yes, he's using, but what you got to look at, right, is if that deer. So the best way to explain it is, if you've ever looked at, and I encourage everybody to do this, if you look at the nose of a whitetail buck, right, or let's just say this, a nose of a cattle, right? They have big nostrils and they're right straight ahead, right? A cow smells the best when the wind's right in his face.
Okay.
A buck, a deer in general, a whitetail deer is not built that way. They have a cone. Their nostrils are embedded back inside of their nose cone. So he's actually smells better with the wind at the back of his head. Hence the reason bucks bed on the end of points with the wind at their back.
Yeah.
And the reason is when it hits his head and it travels alongside of his face, it yetis into his nose. So when he's cruising that transition, right, and he's playing the thermal game and the wind game and the thermal game, all he's got to do is look to the outside, and the wind is hitting him in the back of the head, and he's getting the wind and the thermals. He's scent checking everything from, like I said, to that ridge, the ridge over, the whole internal of the farm, and he's seeing everything ahead of him. It's almost impossible to beat him, right? So you have to get, that's why the leeward winds are so important, because you can push the wind over their head, right? So, but where you got to watch this is, so don't dump it to the inside or the outside. Don't treat it, don't even look for the possibility of it being a leeward wind unless the neighbors or your farm is the last one before a 200-acre field, a set-aside field, whatever, right? That you can dump it in. Here's the reason why, Ted, is because you're above it, right? And you're going to dump that wind out. Let's say there's 4 or 5 trees in this pasture, and yeah, maybe I've seen some deer out in that pasture. You got to really be careful, because what happens is, I call it recycled wind, because if that wind goes out and you're playing in the leeward game, right, and it comes
back,
as soon as it hits the ground, it's coming back.
It's coming back. Yeah.
It's that thermal's grabbing it again. So the best case is you're hunting at this and you're dumping it into this. So it just pools down here, or there's a waterway that grabs it and takes it out of Dodge or whatever, right? If you're in a situation where it's like this, and it gets where it can recycle and that thermal can pull it again. So you're in a stand, hey, I'm hunting this leeward sit. You said this is great. And I just had a deer bust me from below. On the transition, I dumped a milkweed. It's 40 feet above his head. Why? I said, watch the milkweed. It goes out, goes all the way down. You can't hardly see it. And as you're playing on your phone, you look up, wait a minute, there goes my milkweed. And that's why it's recycled wind. So, so if you put yourself in that buck's shoes, think about this. I mean, he's cruising headed north with the wind at the side of his head, using his eyes, his nose, the thermals. He's scent checking everything from above, the other internal of the farm. He's looking down below. He's scent checking the field, totally opposite direction of the wind. I mean, that all plays, it all makes sense, right? So it's hence the reason we have so much of a passion for them, right? But that's why I really feel strongly about this, is that's why that older age structure deer follows contour around the country. It's because they can beat the system. They beat the common wind hunter time and time and time and time again. Not
it
only
puts all the odds in their favor. It ups their odds so much better when they do that, follow that contour.
Yeah. So
that makes
sense.
My
teaching point is this, right? Make sure, first and foremost, you always respect the thermals and the wind, right? Look at the stand assemblage and be honest with yourself. And if there's not a way to cheat that, just know that if you're below the line of travel, it's a PM sit. Further you're back in there, you have to try to get an AM sit out of it. If you can't get above it and it's still PM, well, then you've got to wait till the perfect PM where it's rainy, or you have to get into that side of the farm. Just because you go into the stand one way doesn't mean you have to come out. All that plays in, right? So the further you go back, the more creative you have to be, right? But you have to understand that it's just something that happens time and time and time and time again to folks, and it becomes it's discouraging to watch that on my side of it with folks, is because they just don't understand the thermal. And like I said, this all sounds, I mean, I can go to your piece and sit there at that stand, and I gotta do some math here,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm looking to that sun, and I'm looking at how the deal is. Another one is wind and thermal. If you're in the stand and there's conifer behind you, or you got clean wind, all this plays in, right? So you have to almost treat every stand, uh, differently, let's say, right? Or with respect. But the rule of thumb is just stay below if it's PM and you can't get above it, and stay above it if it's
AM.
AM. And
but you have to access it in the AM. You don't want to cross that line of travel either in the AM. So if you can get to it from above, is better.
well,
Obviously,
if the only way that I'll cut it in the morning is if it's a leeward sit and you can blow the wind over top of it, knowing that if they stand a chance of other deer busting you. But if it's a deer that you're trying to harvest, if he winds you, it's gonna be too late. He's right there.
That's why you cut it right at the stand,
at the stand, right?
You'll get your opportunities before he gets to your cut trail.
Correct. Now the dinger of that is you got to beat the does before you beat him, right? So you got to make sure you stop at your PM stand. If it is a situation where you go into that and you can get above it, stop at the stand, spray your boots down one more time, make sure you're using a scent thief, get above it, and go the extra mile, because you have to beat the first. He might be the first deer you see and you get lucky, but you might have to beat 10 does, right? So, so yes, to answer that question though, the perfect farm is if you do have internal access in ridge country, then yes, you don't cut the line, right? So if you have internal access, you don't start below and cut it just to sit above it. You access it from above on a bald ridge that doesn't have any food or something like that to get into it.
And if that means walking around a quarter of a mile to come into your stand, you have to do that.
You have to do it. Find a way across get permission from the neighbors into there, or whatever the situation is. But so it's a tricky piece of the puzzle, right? But it's a very, very important piece of the puzzle. And I just encourage at the end of the day, right? I just really encourage folks to not, and I always say get caught in the trap, right? But get caught in the nonsense that floats around that just says hunt the wind, and the wind always beats the thermals, and there's a lot more moving parts to that, right? And you have to treat your spot very kindly, and you have to study this upside down, and really, because when you figure it out, and you can really, if you can't figure it out, just err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can figure it out, and there is a leeward potential, right? I would be willing to bet in ridge country, the top 10 deer in ridge country per year are probably killed out of a leeward situation.
Yeah.
And it's very true. I mean, it's a great opportunity. It's just not out there. Not every stand can be a leeward sit, right? So, I just, like I said, every year, takes a lot of clients to get used to that. And that whole contour plays in. That's why we're having this conversation to kind of really, what am I looking for?
Well, I'm going to be looking at my contours more now on that hillside, because I hunt a hill, and there's a road down at the bottom, and I'm hunting a hill that goes up, and I have a top stand and a bottom stand. But that bottom stand, I can actually come into it above the line of travel, like for an AM sit, to get it up, and it blows to my other stand, but I can hunt that. But a PM, I could access. I never do this. I go to my stand in the PM as well, but it's going down and the line of travel is below me. You know what I mean?
Well,
so I got to get down from that road and access it up, and have sort of like another stand down below that.
Yeah. And so the finisher of it is, right, like your situation, the bottom of that ridge or the road that you speak of, right, might just go up the other side, and there might be deer over there, but it's that for that little piece of the road might be a non-deer area. So you have to look at that, like look at your road, You know, where my brain goes is because thermals flow like water, right? When I'm at the road and I say, okay, I'm going up to that stand, before I leave the road, I'm looking at the road. Which way is my thermals going? Because if my thermals are going that way and there's a bend in the ridge up here where it's dumping back into my farm, you got to be careful, right? But if you're on a river shelf and the water flows that way out to the lake, or it's going that way, and you're bringing your thermals down and they're turning 90 degrees and following the water and going down, well, your deer are all coming from the other way. Boy, what a golden sit.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what you're talking about. Like you have ridges and gullies and little drainages that can suck your wind out and
Yeah,
take your
and it
wind
doesn't
so
have
you
to
don't.
be, when I say flows like water,
Yeah.
just always imagine that there's water in the bottom of every gully, whether there is or not. Sometimes
Yep.
it's a dry creek or
Yeah.
whatever, where there's nothing there. And it's just if you drew a line across the top of the ridges, you go to that lowest point and it's going to be cooler,
Yeah.
right? That thermal pull is
Yep.
because of the cool, and it's, and then it hits down there and it's going to flow like water, right? So you have to look in the AM when that thermal starts raising, the heat starts, pulling that up. That's why it's doing that. In the evenings, your bottoms are going to cool down quicker than the tops, and that's why it sinks. But it's in ridge country, very seldom. I mean, they're out there, but very seldom do you have a ridge that goes down and just goes for miles and miles and miles and
Yeah.
miles in the
Just
same
take your
direction.
set. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just take
it
your
doesn't
set.
happen. It goes down, turns a corner, goes down, might run right down your. I've got one that mine dumps down and runs back my fence row, which is good when I try to hunt it in the PM, because when I do have to hunt it in the PM, because I'm walking up with the pole right in my face, and that spot is halfway through my farm, and the only time I can hunt it, maybe I can hunt it. Last year we hunted it once because it was raining like crazy in a PM, and it was silent getting into it, but I can't walk in there to hunt it, even though it's a PM stand. I
Gotcha.
can't just intentionally walk that fence row because I'll blow every deer out getting to it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It
Yep.
has to be a situation where I'm transferring into that one, I'm hunting above it, going back into that one, or if that's a stand and you have to have it for a PM sit, I don't hang the stand there. Right,
Okay.
you move it 100 yards so you can hunt it in the AM or the PM or something, right? So
Yep.
that's, like I said, that's where the best farm gives you some opportunity, that it's above you, below you, above you, below you. So you have the multitude of stands per the wind direction, per the thermals. The tricky
Gotcha.
ones are when you buy a farm that's like this and everything falls to the outside. Well, you might own 40 or an 80 that has all PM
Yeah.
sits, because
Yeah.
you can't change it.
And
You
that's
know.
tough for people because they want to be out there in the morning. So then
Yep.
they're going to be blowing it up.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
makes
that's
sense.
that's when I start really looking at, if you own a 40 or an 80 and you say, okay, I took your advice on this and I went all the way around the farm and they're all below it. What do I do?
Yeah.
Then you start looking at, okay, how can is there a spot that I can make it leeward? And if
Or
it's
sell
not a
the farm.
leeward, if it's not, well, if it's not a leeward, then like I said, then that's what you do. You look
Yeah.
at, okay, do I have internal access where I can, maybe one of my top ridges that goes through my farm. My farm was this perfect example. It was a field and they planted it every year and they hunted off from it every year. First thing I did when I got here is took all the food off from it and planted it all to switchgrass, because I knew I had to get in. If I wanted any AM sits on this farm, I
You got to
got
do
it,
that.
it opened up one, two, there's three of those that I opened up because I
Okay.
can access above it, but I don't have to go in, cut the line of travel. I'm accessing from above it, the
Gotcha.
line of travel, and I go in
It
and
makes
out the
sense,
same
man.
way. So yeah, you have to, in those situations, right? You got to cut the line, like somewhere in there, your transition is going to cut back across an open field, or like mine goes across like a old cattle pasture situation where I tied it together. But very seldom do I ever run into a deer on that. So when I cross it, I'm crossing it on a mowed trail or on my fence row, getting across it. And then in ridge country, I'm hunting the tops. But in flat ground, you don't have to do that because you're never going to be internal, right?
Gotcha.
You don't have to cut it. You're all
Yeah.
from the outside. But
Yeah.
so yeah, it's folks that have, it goes back to that old thing that you hear me talk about all the time, is if you own 40 acres, right, and it's flat, you own 40 acres. But if you own 40 acres in west central Illinois or central Kentucky, where I'm at here, or PA, or Ohio, you might own an 80, because if you flatten it all out, it's probably more square footage, right?
Yeah.
And all of those hollers and dips, and it makes for a way better place to hide deer. But boy, you got to up your game when that
Yeah.
happens, right? You got to figure
Yep.
it out. So
No, it makes sense. I like the recycled air thing that
mhm.
you went over. I think that's something that I'll be looking for
Yep.
too a lot that I really haven't thought much about is the
Yeah.
recycled air. You know what I
So
mean?
one thing I'll touch on real quick with that is always remember that if you're in a stand, let's say you do find, this goes for AM and PM, but let's say you find a leeward sit and you
Yeah.
can hunt above it and you're going to cut the transition, or you have access in and it's leeward, but you don't have to cut it, right?
Yeah.
What you look at is if you have, and we're all guilty of this, hey, I'm going to hang a stand in this oak tree because there's a cedar behind it and it's got a lot of camouflage. That's
Hmm.
where you can get yourself in trouble. I'm that guy, right? I love
Hmm.
cedar trees, but if that wind can't get through there and what I call clean
And
air, right, and
push it out there.
it can't help you and it tumbles in there and it gets stuck in the debris, let's say, right? Well, when it tumbles, it's going down first before
Yep.
it corrects itself. It's going to tumble, and that's where you get hurt, right?
Yep.
Like I said,
No.
on a leeward sit, if you get to the base of the tree, your object is if you hunt a leeward stand, that's why the saddle guys and all this stuff, I'm not saying you can't do it, but boy, you got to have your game face on it because when you get to the base of the tree on a leeward sit, you got to go. You got to get in the stand just as quick as you can possibly get because he's going to nail you at the base of that tree on a leeward sit if he comes walking by every time. But if
Yeah.
you're 20 feet in the air, you'll beat him. You'll beat him. Right.
Hmm.
So what I'm saying with that canopy, right, is make sure you might have to poke a hole in that cedar tree or that spruce tree behind you to let clean air. Or if you're down
No,
below
that
it,
makes sense. I mean, I never even
yeah,
thought of that. Like, because it's like a cheese grater. That wind's coming in all
exactly.
directions now, and it's going in different direction. It ain't flowing steady.
Mhm.
So now you have something breaking it up, diverting the wind, just
Yep.
like a vent in your house is diverting your wind with any
Yep.
bend and break, and your wind's going all different directions. I never even thought of something like
Yeah.
that, which is awesome to even. I'm
The
glad you said that.
even in a non-thermal stand location,
Hmm.
you got to watch that
Hmm.
because if it's flat and the wind's in your face, like why am I getting busted in front of me? Is
Yep.
because it's tumbling. It can't get through. It's dirty. It's stuck. What
Hmm.
and where I referenced that, the first thing that came to my mind when I said that is folks that hunt box blinds, which I do too, right? If
Hmm.
you're in a box blind and you're playing, what you should be doing is you're hunting the correct wind, not a wrong wind. You're hunting the
Hmm.
correct wind, and the wind's in the window. And how did that deer scent me? Well, because it come in the window and it went right back out the window because
Yeah,
it can't get out.
it's almost like you want to open a window behind you to let it go flow through. That's what you
I
should
do it.
be
I
doing.
do it all the time. I've got curtains over my
Hmm.
windows, of
That's
course,
what
but
we have. We have that too.
I open that back window up or whatever and dump it out and let it get gone because it'll maze you. You drop a fuzz in there. I had a client that just did this the other day. Dropped that fuzz in there, and that thing was looked like a mosquito in there,
Right
and
out
he
the window.
cracked that window and away it went. But
Yeah.
before that, it was going in and out the window,
Yeah, makes
So
sense. Yeah.
it's really really something. If you just put their, I just think as in at the at the end of the day, the closing mindset, a hunting mindset. I just don't think that folks give deer enough credit. And I'm a geek about it, and I'm way overboard. I'll be the first one to admit. But I mean,
Oh, they can't smell you when you pour that
uh,
coffee, Josh.
yeah,
They can't
yeah,
smell that coffee. I could
yeah,
smell it a half a block away in the home, but a deer can't
yeah.
smell that coffee.
Yeah,
What
and
are you
it's
talking
like
about?
they just don't, folks just don't give them enough credit. If you lived like they live every day and your life depended on, I mean, we're pretty lucky. I mean, yeah, I kind of know where all my stuff is, but it's a bachelor pad. But I mean, I walk in my house and I don't know if somebody came in and moved something on my counter, well, maybe I'd see it.
Yep.
But if I'm telling you right in the deer's world, if you move something or something's different, they know it. I mean, they're there
Yeah.
all day long. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
it's just like I said, I just don't think that folks give them enough credit. And if you do, it's like cover scent or that's why we use scent thief is because it shuts their affilium off. Totally separate topic, but shuts their affilium off and helps you with that. I wouldn't hunt a leeward sit without it. I
Hmm.
wouldn't hunt at all without it. Been a complete game changer for us. And we use it as a safety precaution. I'm not going to a stand. The owner of the company reached out to me a couple years ago and he said, "You're from the South, right?" And he's like, "Well, you'll just, if a buck's on camera and it's a wrong wind and you need a south wind, and you'll just go hunt him even if it's north." I was like, "Well, I'm not, because I'm not that guy, but I can see where people would get themselves in trouble doing it with it,
Yeah.
because after you
They,
use it, it's like, what is this stuff? I mean, it's wild, right?" So,
yeah.
but I just use it as a precaution, right?
Hmm.
You're, and that's where, like, where I was going with
Just
that, right?
you add a couple more percentages to your game.
Yep.
That's all. Like
Yep.
you just, you try to just do, and that's how I am.
Yep.
If your odds are at 5% to shoot that deer, and then
Yep.
you find your wind, you look at the thermals, you just added another 10% to your game, and then you use like the scent thief or a scent product, you just gave you another 2 or 3%, and you up the percentages to get that buck, where
Yep.
some other guy won't use the precautions. You just upped it, you make your percentage more closer to
Yeah, and it's
100% than you do.
exactly, and it's like the smoke thing, right? I don't know how many people a year I get, and I get it. I
I
know
was
people that
smoking a
do it.
cigarette and shot my biggest buck ever.
Yeah, yeah, smoking cigarette, or they intentionally. A lot of guys are using the bee smokers now,
Yeah.
the plume smokers, and I've had guys. It's huge up north. People do it. Hang their
I know a few people that smoke their clothes. Yeah.
it's good, but I'm here to tell you, smoke, coyote urine, fox urine, skunk urine, all of this stuff that, yeah, probably is stinks like crazy, right? And it's totally going to cover your scent up. All those
Danger.
things, though, all of those things are an alarm to a deer.
Danger.
Smoke is an alarm. It might, they are used to it. Yes, there's
Yeah.
burns all over the country. You know the deal, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's, to me, if it checks him up and he's like, why is that smoke here today and it hasn't been here for a month?
You just enhanced his senses for that. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I don't do it,
I know.
but I'm not
I know.
saying I'm not
I
that
know.
guy.
I hear. I have friends that do it, and I've never done it. Like you hear people go out, stand by the fire, and throw some green leaves on the fire to make it smoke, and they stand there and smoke their
Yeah,
clothes. But to me, it's like, hey, my house is on fire. I'm out of
yeah,
here. That's what a
yep,
deer thinks. That's the way I
yeah,
look at it. Yeah.
yeah. I wanna do anything I can do to not give them any idea I'm there, and give them any idea that. That's why I'm so adamant about figuring out the thermals and the wind, is
Yeah.
because I just the all these products are great, but there's nothing out there that kills scent.
Yeah. You'll never be 100%,
Never
100
be
foolproof.
100%, and it's but if you just use it
The
as a
wind and the
precaution.
thermals are a
Yep.
big thing, because if you go and you play the wind and thermals, they can't bust you really
Yep.
if you're playing it. Besides the sight and the noise, but if
Yep.
you're on your game and you're using the thermals and the wind, that's about the best thing you have to beat them. I
Hmm.
mean, really, hands down. Now you are enhancing yourself when you're using your scent thief and all that,
Hmm.
just a precaution. But like my dad said, I shot a buck with a coffee and a salami in my hand.
Yeah.
But just think of how many people do that, but how many bucks they don't see
Don't.
because of the
Yeah.
scent.
That's the sad part of it
That's the
is.
sad.
Yeah.
Like you see, yeah, you can see those 2.5-year-old bucks that don't really mind that don't know any better.
Yeah.
But then just think of all the deer that you don't see because of your scent or what you're doing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, and you might be, I think that's probably why it is so popular. Like the trackers, a lot of the trackers up in Maine and Vermont and all that stuff, Hail Blood and all those guys up there will do that, because a lot of the folks up there, when they deer hunt in stationary camps, or the woods are full of campsites, Michigan, right? Or they're shooting houses that you're sitting in. Your blinds they're burning wood smoke, so maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't know when the last time I smelled smoke in central Kentucky here around the farm.
Hmm.
I'm not going to be the guy that dives in the
Yeah,
woods with smoke.
exactly. No,
So
I get it. But everything you said tonight was awesome. Great information, man. And I don't
I
want to
sure
keep you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you longer than we have to. But you and I, we could probably talk for hours and hours.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
that. You know that. But
yeah.
that's why we'll continue to do these lives. Whenever you can and whenever I can. But I really enjoy you being here. You're, like I said, the information you have is is awesome. And like I said, the recycled wind and all that stuff, that's new to me. So I'll be definitely checking that out. And the milkweed to me was new like this year, the beginning of the year. I was always using a scent checker and you see it for about 5 feet and then it's gone. But then I started getting into the milkweed and I was really watching that milkweed go. And it'll go for 100 yards. You could see it if, you know, and you can really get your thermals and your wind right. But But the thermals, like you said, are what got me this year. And I don't even know if it was a big buck because I'd just seen a piece of them, but it wasn't like my target deer or anything. But it was just neat because I had the wind in my face, just like you talked about. It was blowing it up the hill away from me. And I put that milkweed out, and I was thinking that milkweed was going that way, and it went boom, it went down to the ground, and went right down to where he was at.
Yeah.
And you know, and you just wonder how many bucks over the years have I not seen because of that. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of farms out there. You know, there's a lot of farms out there that are just one of those farms that I've got 2 or 3 that come right to mind that the folks over the time have been able to sit in their PM stand in the morning because it's so far internal of a ridge system. They're 3 or 4 or 5 ridges over and there's ridges all the way around them or whatever, and it never pulls. And the reason for it never pulls is because by the time it heats up and the sun transfers, it doesn't get hot enough, and all of a sudden, maybe a little bit, but there are guys out there that just sit below it because it never raises.
So it basically neutralizes the thermal, like
It,
basically neutralizes it.
it does.
Yeah.
But it's a very uncommon situation. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
It's
sure.
not, I would never tell anybody intentionally go to unless you're going to transfer your stand, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying you can't, but boy, you got to time it right.
Yeah.
I would never intentionally tell somebody go below the line of travel after daylight during a thermal pull. It's an accident waiting to happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Now let me ask you this. I heard just from like watching other things, and is it true that, like, you know, and this is what me thinking, and like my people who I hunt with and everything. Okay, so when it gets light out, your thermals start to pull. That's incorrect as well, because isn't the coolest time of the day when the sun rises?
Yeah, probably. And they always say about a half hour or the first hour after daylight is your coolest temperatures.
Yes.
So it could be, like I said, if you don't have the best way to do that, right, is to go to that stand and look to the south, or if you're on the north side of the farm, your chances of it being a later pull is better because the sun has to clear all of that. But if you're on a farm that the ridge is exposed and there's not another I can think of many, and we've all seen them, right? You're hunting a old cattle farm or something, and you're hunting timber up above you, and you turn and look to the south, and I mean, it's all down, or it's just, you can see for 5 miles. Well, that slope is going to heat up first because there's nothing obstructing it. Now you go in 300 yards, or you go on Tom's property across the road, and his thermals might not pull until 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. So it isn't just when it gets light out, your thermals are pulling. That's not correct information.
No, it's not always, but I would say probably 90% of the time at some point your thermals are going to pull. Well, when is that though, right?
Exactly.
I mean, like I said, I've got that rifle blind back here that I'm telling you right now. I'm sitting there in the morning. I get in it in the dark of the dark, and the windows open in the front and the side, and it never goes away. The wind is always in my face, and all the debris and all the stuff in the morning is floating up off the brush and going up the hill. And you look over on the other side, and it's sinking. And the reason is it's dark on that slope. That south facing slope is still dark because my ridge on my neighbors to the south is it's blocking the sun. And all of a sudden you look down and I can see the sun line. I should tape it one time at the video, and the sun line about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock starts climbing that bank. And as it starts climbing, you look and everything in the air is going up that hill. But not once did it pull. So it's not always, it will at some point,
Yeah.
But
But
it's not the
most of the time,
gospel, right? It's
that's
not just the
awesome.
sun comes up, the thermals go up, the sun goes down, the thermals go down.
Yeah, that's not the case.
That's
No.
that's a good starting point.
Yeah, for sure.
And
For
and if
sure.
you're lucky and in the right spot, that'll work. But
Yep.
there's a lot of variables in between that, you know.
Yep.
So,
Cool.
yep.
Very
Yep.
cool.
And if, on a closing thing there, a lot of people have done, I've never personally done this, but I've seen it done, and they make them smoke bombs that you can take. And a lot of people will go right after the season ends, and they'll intentionally go to their stand after the season ends and climb up in the stand and put a smoke bomb in there and light that baby off
And
and
see exactly what it's doing.
watch exactly what it does. It'll tell you a lot. But like I said, look at the sky. Is it overcast? Is it cloudy? Is it 20 degrees? Is it 10 below
Yeah.
zero? Is it 40 degrees?
Yeah,
You know what
there's
I'm
so many
saying?
different factors, and
Yep.
a 5 degree difference can make a difference. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So it just depends on what's going on.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the learning portion of the whole thermal video is just respect the contour
Mm-hmm.
and how that naturally first and foremost pulls before you
Mm-hmm.
start getting creative.
Yeah.
And then once you educate yourself enough on what thermals really do,
Mm-hmm.
then you tap into the leeward. Then if you can master the leeward, you can go anywhere in the country and kill giant deer anywhere
Yeah.
with thermals because you've got her figured out.
Yeah. So basically, below the contour line, PM sit. Above the contour line, AM sit. Then that all depends on your access and
Yep.
what you need to do.
So a PM, right?
Yep.
I've asked this a lot. Where can I hunt a PM leeward? I've never, maybe one. PM leeward sits don't happen, and the reason is
Yeah.
because the thermals now are going the wrong way, and you're dumping on the transition. So your
Yeah. So you're
AM,
double trouble there. Yeah.
yep, AM leeward wins
Yeah, because your
are your
AM, your
target.
thermals are pulling your scent up and your wind's blowing it over the head. But
Yep.
then you just got to watch for your recycled wind. If it's opened, you're good to go. If there's like a pasture, a
Yep.
field, but if there's anything that's like a hill or anything and that could hit that hill and come back at you, you want to try to avoid that.
Well, and if you ever want to know where the best recycled wind is on your farm, look
Uh-huh.
for your biggest community scrape in a thermal hub, and that's exactly why them bucks are all using a car-sized scrape in the bottom of a holler where 3 or 4 of those ridges dump into it, is because it just keeps recycling. It just keeps
Stays right
dumping in
there.
there, and it just floats around. And anywhere them deer are at on that farm, one scrape tells the whole story. That's
That's
why
crazy.
that's why that thermal hub is what it is. It's because of recycled wind.
Nice. Is that why they call it a thermal hub? Because it's the thermal
Yep.
staying there and it's the
Yep.
hub where they come and check everything.
Yep. Anytime they get there, they can say the wind is here. The thermals are raising on this bank. They're sinking on here. It's to be honest with you, there's a lot of scent in there, but I've seen a lot of bucks. I've got one that jumps out to me, but there's a couple. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you're on a system where you can see a thermal hub or something like that. You can't hunt it, right? But you can see deer coming to it and from it, and it would surprise you how many times a buck goes to it, leaves it, goes back to it, leaves it, goes back to it, like a bird dog that lost a pheasant, right? Because
Wow.
there's so many like miscues. Like, I know it's
Yeah.
here, and I know that the scent's here. Where's it coming from though? Because he's got AM thermals going that way. He's got AM thermals here. He's got wind dumping in. And there's like 4 or 5 mixed signals, right? So
Yeah.
if you're seeing bucks go in and out of one spot like a checkerboard all the time, and it's just in there, and it's a spot you can't get to, that's the thermal hub. Don't hunt it. Hunt him, kill him 100 yards from there, going
Yeah.
to or from it, right? But you won't beat him in those areas. If you could figure out a way, and I'm not saying you can't, because there's a lot of spots on like public ground that are way back in the middle of nowhere. There's lease properties. Guys kill giant deer off thermal hubs every year, but it's the first time in, and
Yeah.
they don't. You got one chance. They don't know you're there, and you hope that your whatever that scent elimination system you're using is spot on, because you got one chance. You go in,
Yeah.
get it done, and get out. But if you got to hunt it a second time, your opportunity goes in the tank, because you're gonna get busted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense
So
for sure.
your
All right.
goal is to make those community scrapes so powerful to the outside on that line of travel that you're not interrupting, right? That you don't have to do that.
Okay.
You just let them do that in the core and know that they're going to come out and they're going to play that game with you on the outside, and they can't scent check what you have to offer for them unless they're on that. So
very cool.
But yeah, no, I sure appreciate it. It's a passion of mine, and I just got lucky enough in the industry when I started this whole thing and in West Central Illinois there, and that light bulb went off years ago. I always like to share that with folks. It's just because it just totally opened up. It just totally opened up a whole new way of hunting for me, you know, and a whole new mindset. And ever since I mean, that was in my, you know, I moved to Illinois at 19, you know, so you do the math. I'm 44 now. So, I mean, it's totally changed the way that I put clients on deer, hunted, you know, it's a complete game changer.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very complex, but very, 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 you know, very high percentage if you could.
Yeah, your videos are just amazing, and I really appreciate you coming on with me and, you know, telling, you know, my followers. And if anybody's in there, make sure you go follow Josh's channel. Like I said, he has a bunch of videos out there, and whatever you want to know, just go over, search his videos, and pick one, and then I guarantee you'll be looking at other ones because it's addicting. And I'm really into it. I'm getting used to it. You know, I'm like liking it now and getting into it more with land management and everything. So I really like it. So, and I look forward to working with you in the future with these live streams and hopefully the DIY or do it yourself pro. You know, that's really cool. I can't wait to hear from you about that.
Ted, let me know, and for you and the viewers, let me know what works for you, and let's get it on the schedule where maybe I can get there and you know, go over some stuff with you. Maybe we could do some filming and answer some questions right there. I don't know if we can do a live out in the woods or not, but I mean, we might be able to shoot some stuff and put me right there with it, and then you can do a video of it later or whatever. But that way it's, you know, it's easy to talk about this stuff. Like the topic tonight is complex, but I mean, it's easy to talk about some stuff, but it's another thing to see it, you know, put your hands on it and explain
for sure.
it. So,
for sure.
Let me know. I'm
you going to be up in PA at all this year? Do you have anything scheduled for up around this way?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff in PA this year. I'm gonna be I've got a really big build to do in PA this year, a full build on a 400 or 300 acre farm we're building turnkey.
Okay. Do you know the area you're coming into?
That farm is actually up by I think I've got probably a half dozen people all over the state right now, but I know I'll be in, I think, Bedford. There's a couple that jump out to me, but that one is just what's the town that the Little League, Williamsburg or Williamsport?
Williamsport.
South, like east of Williamsport, up in there is where that big farm is I'm doing. So
yeah, maybe something like that or whatever. But yeah, we'll talk. Definitely, we'll get together and do something for sure. Because I'm really, I enjoy working with you and doing this stuff with you. So and I learn a lot myself.
Yeah, if you're ever coming through Kentucky, and you can time it, you're more than welcome to stop here and stay here, and we can shoot some stuff on the farm. So
yeah, for sure. So. All right, man. Well, you have a great night. I'll probably be talking to you before Christmas and everything. Or I'd say have a nice holiday, but I'm sure I'll be talking to you before then. So
sounds
all right, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. And Josh, thank you. We'll see you again.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a great night, everybody.
Yep. Bye-bye.